welcome back to Armitage. This is the show where we talk about what an economic driven campaign might look like. We're doing it in the Dungeons and Dragons 5e system. It's the 2024 rules, and that matters because bastions are highly relevant. In any campaign, role playing and on the spot events and rulings are vitally important, but that's something to figure out at your table. We're building a framework of rules and standards for you to work within and exceed when you think it's the right move. This is our 14th episode, not counting a few extra content additions. The characters effectively started at 5th level and now they're 9th. We've covered just over 10 years. That's one thing about this kind of campaign. It won't work if you make small moves. This is the kind of game where you burn a year most sessions. I see it as maybe run a minor combat, run a social encounter, and then do active planning decisions to make up a typical 4-hour session. It's ideal if your players will engage on a message board so you can put in an extra 2 to 6 hours of role-playing and decision-making between sessions. If the DM or players want this kind of game, balance is 100% a Session 0 topic. It affects character choice and play style. Alright, let's get into it. We'll start with the core rules. The mine is still 5d6 minus 5d4. That comes out to a 19 minus 8. Very nice. That's a starting bank of 11,000 for the year. It might be a good chance to reestablish that rainy day fund, but we'll decide that later. The security roll. That's a d20, still minus 2 for the struggling but improving sheriff's department. Plus 2 for bastions, plus 1 for the militia hanging around, and plus 2 for the Ponderosa posse sticking mostly close to home for the year. We have no identified threats, just the wear of corruption and a chance of something new. So let's say a DC 10 to avoid a big problem, DC 14 for no loss. 11 on the dice, hey, that's a 14. Next up, the religion roll. The goal here is to attract a new temple. Anything over a 5 might be notable in an actual game, but for us, we need a 15 for something more consequential. We're at a plus 2 for bastions, but a big old minus 4 for a bad core score. Nah, rolled a 6, turns out to be a 4. We don't lose anything. Now, we have only recently started working on our religion score, so can't expect too much. In years to come, we will have a more reasonable chance to hit that roll. In the meantime, let's tweak the list a little bit. And remember, this town, Armitage, their goal isn't to have a through-the-roof religion score. They don't want to be a religious mecca. They just want to be able to attract a few temples and let them grow naturally. A satellite church is great. That's really what we're aiming for right now. That's what our Church of the Drangles is. And the city might spend money to improve it. They might work out a deal. This is a role-playing event that part of it's paid for by the party, partially by the temple, or we might put it on a random events chart that maybe it has a chance of improving. Major investment, that is, the dream right now to get one of those. Roll that natural 20. And that way the temple comes in and then starts spending its own money to improve. Now that's probably going to mean that relatively quickly the town has no control over the temple, but that's okay. It's still going to do good things. And of course the megachurch is the same idea. It's going to grow very big, probably fairly quickly. But any of these things, I think, in a fantasy setting, any of these temples are going to really add to the overall success of the town. And it adds challenges and opportunities for whoever's playing in this campaign or, for our own thought experiment. All right, now the amenities roll. We're looking for a really high roll here. The hope is that we are attracting new experts. We've directed a lot into this from bonuses from our institutions, from our bastions and such. Now, the other part of a high roll is going to be growth. So, great if I really knock it out of the park, but another surge in population is going to present some challenges. We end up at plus 6 with advantage. The advantage is because Nellie, our bard, is directly involved. I need at least a roll of 10 to make all this investment worth it. Actually, even after that, we need a actually useful expert like mining or amenities or... No, wait a minute. My chart's wrong. I did not update it. We got an amenities expert. I'll have to fix that. Take care of it soon. I do have a few experts that I failed to update. Not just... Okay. Anyway, let's not linger. So, agriculture, mining, education, trade. These are all ideal. We definitely need people here. So let's see what our role actually is. Oh, 16, baby. Plus 6 for a 22 or 4 new experts. Yeah. And our population shoots up to 624, but we will deal with that in a moment. All right, who are these experts? First roll, agriculture. All right, that's good. Second roll, agriculture again. Next roll, amenities. Didn't need that. And finally, great googly moogly, agriculture. I'm buying new dice. The good news is we have 3 tries to get a ballistic ag expert on 2d6. So we get a 9, a 9, and a 2. The 9s end up being 17s. And for the record, 9 was the number that I had to roll to get the ag expert to start with. So that was a serious streak on different dice of 9s. Lots and lots of 9s. 14 for the amenities expert, by the way. That person's going to go open a pool hall and never be heard from again. So all this effort on the amenities roll really didn't turn out great, but we have an expert for agriculture, a really good one. It's probably going to be like our tourism score now, and it's going to start getting some work put into it just because we pulled that NPC, somebody really good at what they do, even though what they do isn't something that we really, really want. All right, what have we missed? Trade. Let's say that I need a 12 to move our ore, but that's going to be at advantage because we have 3 routes coming in and out of the city now. We control 1, 2 are foreign controlled. And really it does strike me that this role is becoming obsolete. It really mattered when trade was inconsistent in the town, but it's not anymore. That has definitely changed for the better as Armitage dumps more and more money and effort into becoming a stronger trade power. And 12. All right, yeah. After all is said and done, we just barely made it, but making it is all we need. Next up, the industry roll, 14 on the dice. After modifiers, we do okay. The town is still steadily growing. Pretty soon, probably going to have to do another episode updating our buildings and businesses. If that's something that you want me to prioritize, let me know in the comments. All right, now our other money makers, the shipyards, the Camel Ranch, and the Southern Trade Route. Now last year we did a D6 minus a D4 times 100 for the Southern Route. That's low. It should be times 1,000. It actually helped us because we did lose money, but we're going to call it a coming up to speed year. This year we roll a 5 minus 4, so 1,000 gold, but that's okay. Our trade empire has begun. The Camel Ranch and the shipyards are going to pay for that shakeout year rule. The Camel Ranch breaks even, 1 minus 1, so the multiplier doesn't even matter. Shipyards, 2 minus 3. We lose a little bit of money. It's going to get absorbed into general expenses. But also because of that coming up to speed year rule that we just invented, we are not risking a complete failure on another bad roll next year. So that brings our budget up to 12,000 for next year. Now for our score improvements, between experts and gold investment, we get 12 rolls. I will summarize. Woo, roller coaster. So pretty much everything goes up. But I'd say at least half of them just by the skin of the teeth. If I needed a 5, then I rolled a 5. Needed an 8, there's an 8. Experts save the day over and over again. Phyllis, however, in fact, both of our party members that are contributing, they had bad years. The military fumbles, loses a point despite all the amazing bonuses. Also, I find her argument to raise her troop limit completely unconvincing. Try again later. So far, her dreams of a great military unit expansion, mercenary force for hire, those are on hold. Then Angela turns around and she fumbles. Education falls to a 1. The people in Armitage are not super bright. These guys, for the most part, they're miners, they're caravan guards. We have a few merchant types, but they are our town geniuses. That's just the way it is for now. We do have some good news, though. The mine crits. Next year, we're rolling 7 dice. All right, you're waiting for it. Here's the new chart. And moving to part 2 of the video, we have a lot to talk about. There is a political theory that institutions are the key to a successful and long-lasting culture, nation, or some other social entity. For a state, institutions might include a healthy court system, social welfare programs, the police, banks, media, etc. Basically, it's things that don't care about who's in power. They just chug along doing their thing. It's bureaucracy, slow, reliable, unchanging bureaucracy. Ancient Rome is a great example of this. They suffered bad emperors off and on for centuries before collapsing. The grain shipments kept coming, soldiers were taken care of, and the wheels of society kept turning for a very long time, no matter who was in charge. In some ways, that's what the posse is doing in Armitage. They are building institutions to establish the stability required to turn a town into a desirable and profitable asset. Their goal from the beginning is to be annexed by their homeland, Manzamea. They want to become landed nobility. They even accept that they might not be the ones in charge of this town that they're building. They just want to be rich, put in a stable situation with guaranteed income for life. Will things actually go this way? Well, if we keep going, we're going to see someday. Which sounds like a good segue into Do the Stuff. Hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know when it's time to bring this experiment to a halt and apply the system that we're building to something new. See if it holds up. If you want me to keep going with Armitage, use your words. Let me know. Alright, what's next? Yes, a few clarifying thoughts on trade. I think maybe I've done this before, but it's super important to Armitage right now, and I want to keep it all straight in my head, keep it fresh. The core trade score is used to determine if necessary goods can be brought into the city or exported out of the city. It is just a DC 10 check, as long as the score is near the city's development score. The fact that Armitage is investing in additional trade, nodes, and routes, this gives us enough redundancy to make the function a little bit outmoded. I mentioned this earlier. For other cities, settings, this might not be the case, so it's important to have it as part of the system. This isn't just for Armitage, although every time you're going to customize a little bit. Nodes are physical places where trade happens or where trade routes pass. They don't automatically generate money, but largely pay for themselves. Creating a node eats a point of core trade score. You are taking personnel from your central office and you are moving them. You are sending them out to develop something new. Trade node development level determines how many trade routes they can support. These are routes controlled by the owner. Foreign routes are not limited to how many may pass through the node. If a node's development level exceeds the owner's core trade score, it might just become an independent settlement. So that creates a situation that you want them to be higher development, so they can produce more trade routes. But if they get too high, then they're going to break free. And all kinds of events, which we're going to work on that later, eventually, maybe this episode, all kinds of things might affect that score. And say it all the time, several times this episode, this is what DMs are for. Before we get too far off script, let's go ahead here. Get back to it. Trade routes make money for the owner. The base rate is 1d6 minus 1d4 times 1,000. We use that a lot. That is our base for all kinds of investment. Now that is after they become fully established. We established earlier. I know I make this stuff up on the cuff and revise it later. Some of it we keep, some of it we don't. But you have the first year warm-up phase. Now I see no problem with trade routes also being able to add bonuses to core roles in lieu of making money. For example, they might add to the overall trade score if they're sent off with a specific mission of moving a certain kind of item just for the necessity of the town. It might not make money, but it might serve some other need. You might also support the military. You might arm these caravans to pacify a region, or it might go with amenities. We did that a little bit last episode where we decided that we were importing pleasant things, candy, alcohol probably, things that make the people happy, improve life. You're doing it to make things better, not to make money. But most of the time, this is just a moneymaker. This is what Armitage is wanting to do. Once again, I'm going off script a lot. Last line of the paragraph. This is why we have DMs. Make your arguments and see what the DM thinks. Work something out. It's all about compromise. Don't break the game. That's what the DM's for. Players, invest. Think about what you're doing. Do prep. Do work outside the session. And develop this. You are involved in the system and in the world building. Now, listening to old videos, we never really established a number of routes per node. So let's say each node is a base 5, and then modifiers apply. This fits in with other things that we did, and in theory, you're seeing a chart pop up on the screen. This might sound like a lot. The ability for a trade node to handle 10 routes. Then you're going to have multiple nodes. You might have 40 routes to a city, making tons and tons of money, throwing everything out of kilter. But remember how hard it is to get these big numbers. First of all, you've got to make the rolls. Remember, whenever you get up to a 14, that means you got to roll more than a 14. Even with a good expert, you're now a 50-50 shot. So 14 gives you 7 rounds. So that's, you may never get there, but I don't see it going much higher than that unless you're dealing with a very long time span. The other thing is we established the rule that you have to stay higher than your core score, and probably several points higher, because I see random events and just campaign events making places potentially want their independence. And maybe you turn them into vassal states. Maybe that's an option that your DM is willing to work with. So you're still making a percentage, but it's not the full amount. And remember, every time you're creating a new core, you're eating a point of your core trade score. So that is, once again, increasing the chance of independence desire. Now, when I established this and was playing around with it, I thought for a second, that means we can't even have our own trade route yet. We've already established one, but that's actually not true. I was going to grandfather it in anyway. Sometimes I forget that our market in town is a trade node. It was very early on. We didn't even know what trade nodes, routes, all that stuff. Hadn't even started to get into it. But we preempted and decided that, the town needs a separate market away from the core trade score. Those first few years were rough, getting things in and out, but we did it. We pulled through. We're building a city here, folks. Yeah, so our market is a node, and it's big enough to give us 2 routes. Now, I was going to get into reputation scores, military tradition, fair trade, piety, maybe other stuff too. But I don't think we have time to do that and to do event charts, and I really think we need to get some event charts in. This is a base thing that it's one of the reasons I think that someday we are definitely going to have to start all over again. This should have been something that was around from the beginning, and it's going to take tweaking to get it right. So let's see what we can do. We're going to work on the main chart, and every chart's going to be customized, right? So this chart is just for Armitage, and then maybe we can get into some charts for the nodes. These are for geographic locations. We are using the DMG for inspiration here, specifically the Bastions event chart. That starts out with the listings of all is well, Bastion is attacked, in this case town is attacked, extraordinary opportunity, criminal hireling, friendly visitors, guests, lost hirelings, magical discovery, refugees. I think I might have added refugees myself. Request for aid. No, refugees is on there. Request for aid and treasure. Now, percentage-wise, all is well is half the chart. It's 1 to 50. Everything else varies from a 2 to 7% chance of happening. I'm going to add some more stuff in here. Part of this is based on comments I've had in the past. I looked around at the 2014 DMG and the new DMG, and there's not a lot there. So I think we're pretty much just going to work with this. I am a little surprised that there is nothing for a significant weather effect. You guys know I love weather effects, so we're going to add that to the list. Also going to add a category for major interloper event, which basically means we need to have a chance that somebody or something big comes to town. We'll play with that as we get into it. Probably put it in under refugees, maybe visitors, we'll see. All right, side note. These are not supposed to be typical adventuring hooks. Especially for us, they are meant to be effects on town stats. They might have to do with experts coming and going. They might have apply bonuses or penalties to rolls. It might be boons or busts for income. In a real game, there certainly might be some opportunities, but that's not what we're doing here. We're doing a thought experiment. If you're running this at your table, do what you think is right. But every bad thing that happens should not be solvable by the PC's actions. If they're not around, this stuff just happens. In the end, this goes back to what we've said in many times. It's the system. D&D is not made or meant even for us to get too much into the minutia. Adventurers adventure and yes, make big decisions, but they're not going to draw their sword and go out and fight inflation. These kinds of things on these charts are not supposed to be your typical D&D call for initiative. All right, back to the list. What we're looking at now is expanding and customizing. Let's add weather, which will be sandstorms or rain. One bad, one good. A cool spell would be really great. Heat, bad. Rain could be a flood, though. Now, I'm going to post all these charts. Some of the talking over it is going to be probably a little bit rambling. It's a long script that I'm making longer by going off script. Way too much. So I do question whether immigrants would be significantly different from refugees, but for now, let's just say, yeah, they're different. So we have random expert moves into town. Much needed expert moves into town. Troublemaker moves into town. -1 to security. That's probably an ongoing problem, not something that's just one cycle. foreigners move into town. This might mean a lot of different things. It might drive to an increase in nationality if the immigrants are demonized. It might lead to an increase in liberty desire over time as they assimilate, and gives Armitage or whatever town you're working with more distinctiveness in their local culture. If they don't assimilate, it's definitely going to be a source of tension. As far as the all is well option, you don't want crazy things happening all the time, so this is going to add bonuses to various core roles, just simple little events that don't hurt and don't help too much. You might get visiting barbarians and give Zadie's Hall a chance for an increase. You might get big spenders and add a d6 plus 4. You might say one is big spenders. D6 plus 4 businesses get a roll to improve. Now, don't forget have individual development scores for every business you have in town if you're crazy enough to keep up with it all. You could have traveling bard is impressed. A reputation score gets a check to improve. Looking at what the DMG says about extraordinary opportunity. Basically, you're paying some money to host an event that gets you recognition, resulting in another role on the chart. And that does not seem very extraordinary to me. So maybe let's change it and say a wealthy benefactor wants your city to host an event or a grand experiment. The town has to finance a sum of 500 gold pieces. As a result, the affected core development score gets 3 chances to improve. This might be a powerful knowledge priest offering to teach the town's undereducated populace. See how we're customizing it? Could be an elemental spirit with an idea for developing the mind. There's a million possibilities here. It's a fantasy world. Do fantastic stuff. The attack option is an interesting one. For an ongoing game, it depends dramatically on whether or not the PCs are there. Ultimately, it comes down to, is it a good thing or a bad thing? A successful defense is a chance to increase the military tradition score. It might mean treasure. It could also mean really big damage to your investment here. So on our chart, we're saying city defends, +1 military tradition. City defends, check for military tradition increase. Raid successful, roll a d20 for severity of damage, ranging from a loss in core attributes to total destruction. The party is present, you're going to game it out. Now for that raid successful option, this is really a choice for what that DM wants to do with the game. Destroying the campaign on a random roll, it seems like a bad idea, but major setbacks can definitely be part of a bigger story. Just another side note, we need to remember that a 9th level party might be able to bring in as much as 30,000 in an active year. The party has adventured for capital before. If they do it again, that could be near 100 rolls to increase development scores over the next year or two. A big hit to the city could be offset as long as the population remains. So don't be afraid to hit your party hard. I wouldn't necessarily plan to, but if it happens, it might not be the disaster you think it is. In some ways, they can rebuild stronger than before. Criminal hireling. Basically, somebody in the city is causing a drain on resources. That could be a d6 times 100 gold lost from the city coffers. This is kind of what we use the security score for. You might just flat out create a penalty to the security roll or have this stacked on top of it. And then a really good security roll might end the problem. Other things you might put on the chart under criminal hireling. Petty crime is up, -1 to the amenities roll. -2 whenever a given development score is invested in for improvement. Guests. So, in theory, guests are invited, right? Oh well, don't worry about it. Now, the DMG has 4 suggestions here. A famous dude. He stays about a week. He leaves you with a letter of recommendation. So this kind of thing, it might step up your timeline for being annexed, but in a way that it's a radical time to change the campaign, so you might not want to push that too hard. This could just be a get out of jail free card. It might be a card that you could use to bring businesses into the city, to try to use it to coerce people a little bit. Yeah. Next, we have a mercenary comes to town. He's +1 security or military as long as he's here. The last one, that means I skipped one. It's a friendly monster. It's mostly a super defender, neutralizing any attacks. I'm going to add one. This is based on one of the suggestions and comments. A gaggle of dwarves or gnomes come to Mine Electrum. They add a development level to the mine when rolling for profit, but not when improving development. In other words, they help out, but they don't hinder you to continue improving the mine. The one I skipped was guy requesting sanctuary. He comes in, he's in trouble, he needs a safe haven. And if you give it to him, he leaves after some time and leaves you some money to pay for your trouble. You could translate that into all kinds of things, a magical item or whatever. Lost Hireling is simple and something that we need. Let's translate it to lose an expert to death, retirement, or greener pastures, whatever. Point is, you have lost an expert. Magical discovery. In any one of 1,000 different ways, an uncommon magical item ends up in your city's inventory. This is something that we can add to later. Right now, we'll keep it simple. This list is going to be a pain enough to create anyway. Refugees arrive requesting aid. I'm going to change this completely from what's in the book. This is a short-term drain for sure. I would say roll something big, like 3D100. That's for the number of refugees. Or you can just pick a number. They require an expenditure of at least 1 silver piece per refugee per day to keep them alive. This is squalid levels of existence. So if you're paying just this much, you're going to encourage problems. If you pay more, then, good things might end up happening. I would run this by turning them into a core score and keep track of yearly. Until they leave, they're going to continue to be a drain. They also might hurt your amenities roll. Until they leave, they are an expense and a drain on amenities. If they do reach Dev level 5, though, through investment, they become part of the regular population. A benevolent church or some other organization might speed up this process. Obviously, if they integrate, you can deal with the integration of cultures. You can play around with your world building on how you want that to develop. And it is going to make the town less likely to want to become a part of Manzamea. If they develop a distinct culture here through that sort of thing, that kind of plots their course. This is a big chunk of population that's going to affect their future. Once again, this is why we have a DM. I've said it 4 times now in just this episode. There are a million ways that this might play out. I've got to stay on script. I'm going to turn this into a full hour video. Request for aid. This is pretty weak in the book. Basically, somebody needs to borrow one of your bastion defenders. I would say that the request is going to be for troops or an expert or for money. And in return, you gain a chance for a reputation increase. And yes, we're definitely talking about reputation scores, at least touching on them next episode. Finally, we have treasure. There's a chart that generates a little gold, some art, some magic, all the way up to a rare magical item. For our purposes, we're probably going to put on the chart something like a clever trade deal turns into an unexpected profit, 3d6 times 100 gold, windfall. Diamonds are mined, 1d6 times 1,000 gold, windfall. The city acquires a magical item, common. Then there's another listing for uncommon and for rare. Alright then, the word count didn't get too out of control, but I'm also going to have to do a lot of chart building. That's going to take some time, but I think it's worth it. This feels like it was a good episode. The node at the river and the one out west will also have events charts, but not nearly so complex. Next episode, probably going to land somewhere in April. Between now and then, I'm going to keep doing these blank page builds, probably. Even though I said I wouldn't, I am going to follow up last week's episode on Dracozoic. That map's only half done, and it's going to bug me. So I'm going to finish it out and probably talk about some potential factions for the city to fill in the time. I want to thank you all for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed it. I feel like we got a lot done. You are all important people to this world, and I hope that you're all doing well. Spring is almost here. I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful rest of the day. Cheers. And we totally forgot the planning phase. An entire third of the video. And I didn't just forget a little bit. This is the next day, and I'm just now remembering. So, of course, I have more to say as well. I did some calculating. Our development score by population is a statistical match to our level by average scores. We might find out later that this means nothing, but for now it seems like it's really telling us that we're not out of whack. The numbers we're looking at can be taken at face value. We don't have to worry about making big compensations or things being weird and not really what we're hoping they are. Our high scores mean that those areas are what Armitage is truly doing well. A strong administration promises continued growth in all fields. Our amenities bodes well for continued population growth. Our citizens are happy. Religion, education, tourism, agriculture, all those things, yeah, they really are bad. These are not the things that are great around town. Some of them will always be a problem. However, you can't be good at everything. With that recognition, we continue with the plan. We build on trade and set up for a future that includes education and military strength, despite some setbacks. We have 5 experts and a lot of gold to invest. We will assign our best experts, admin, industry, military, amenities, and the sheriff. That's going to leave us 12,000 gold. We're going to go ahead and bank 3,000 and invest evenly in the river node, the 2 trade routes, the camels, the shipyard, religion, education, trade, and the market. Except that there's only one trade route, that's the southern route. So let's add another. We will call it the Manzamea route, or eastern route. I'm not going to go through each one of our bastions and institutions, but the ones that can bump amenities are going to do that. We want to draw in experts, and we have a chart for that. Second priority is religion, then security. So anything I can do to bump those scores, that's what's going to be getting bumped. I also have a lot of graphics work to do for this episode. I've definitely got to get that list done. I've already done some of the others as I record this. We're gonna be okay. This is gonna be a highly graphic episode, but it's gonna be worth it. Our party, they're gonna go adventuring. In a real game, I figure I'd probably plan out something to last about 3 to 5 sessions. For this thought experiment, all we need to know is that they are going to put 25% of their monetary gains back into the town. As they have done in the past, this expedition is well planned. Their monetary profit will be determined by a D20 plus a D10 plus 6. Average rolls would make that about 20,000 for a potential infusion into the city of 5K. Above average rolls for the mine could skyrocket the budget into record territory. Do we dare dream? 7 dice for the mine, 14,000 plus 28,000 from the adventuring. Well, no, it's a quarter of that. So that still puts us way the heck up there. And we've got other roles coming in too. I'm starting to drool a little bit. All right, that's for next time. In the meantime, this is really the end. I hope you guys have a great time. Hope you enjoyed it. Love you all. Cheers.